You. Oh, me. Okay, alright. Oh boy. You know, I really don't know what to say anymore with these things. When it comes to videos now. I really don't really know how to say what I'm gonna say, man. So I guess I'll kind of speak from the way I think I need to speak from. I think we're out of time, bro. I think we're out of time because I was seeing stuff last night, including with Chris from Global Rapture Watchers, right? That dude, you know. And they were talking about the last Trump and the trumpet. Bro, I think we're there. I think we're there, and I don't know. I don't know if I can take this world much longer where it's going. It's really been getting to me. I've been really struggling going through a lot of stuff, man, and it's been very hard. And and I don't know if I can take it much longer, man, being here in this world, man. I'm telling you guys. We gotta be close to something happening very soon. We do. Like, I don't know if we're gonna be out of here by July, or if we're gonna be out of here the next 3 months, or if we're gonna be out of here or maybe by August, September. But I know that we're close to leaving soon. I know that everything feels to me like it's falling into place to a point that we won't be here much longer. I just don't see it, you know, and the Ayatollah just came out of hiding since the, bunker buster, since the bombs got dropped on those nuclear sites in Iran, right? The Ayatollah Khomeini came out of hiding today, and he's rallying Iran to rebuild and have plans to do something in the future, probably to America. Everybody's talking about 9/11 or some kind of massive event hitting the U.S. And I've been seeing that too. I think that could happen. I do. I've been thinking that could happen very much so. Something's going on with Iran today. Definitely. And yesterday, too, they were talking about doing something. So, we gotta be close to something. Not to mention you have that meeting with Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu, which is March 7th. What's March 7th? July 7th, I'm sorry. And there's a lot of big stuff coming up, including in the Middle East, man. We got a lot of big news to cover today. I wasn't really... I tell y'all the truth, man. I'm tired of this world. I don't want to be here anymore. I'm sick of it. I really just want to go. But, I'm going to try to keep going and doing what I can do while I'm still here. I know we're out of time very soon. I think we're living in the last Trump. I do. That was prophesied in that was predicted in the Bible. Because ever since the big beautiful bill was signed into place, I think that's another sign that we're getting closer to the rapture and the Antichrist about to come onto the world stage. I know people don't want to hear this, but this is just the truth, and everything. And I was like, okay, and everything. Like I said, and when that bill got passed, it got passed into law yesterday. We know that they've gone beyond checks and balances, beyond the judicial and executive and legislative branches, beyond Congress. We know they've been changing and flipping and doing stuff behind the scenes. They do. If you have eyes to see and ears to hear, and and you can see what we see, with everything, that the people that are running our government are pretty much doing things that never been done before, and two, they're making changes that could very well affect people in the future. If I were you, I would get on the ark and I would come with us with the rapture, and I would come to God before it's too late, and I would go to a place where it's private and you're alone, and ask God to come into your life, man. But again, you have free will. It's your choice. Because you don't want to be stuck here with what's coming. You're not going to be able to live with the way this is going. You're not going to be able to survive. And I have a feeling all these benefits and things are going to be cut. And it's not looking good. You're pretty much going to be living in the beast system pretty soon. You are. Where it says it takes it takes some day's wage to buy a loaf of bread. Oops. I know people don't want to hear me say this stuff, but, well, we're getting there, bro. We are. I couldn't sleep last night, so I just literally sat up watching stuff about the rapture all night. Yeah, I was watching a video from Chris from GWR. He wasn't, he was busy. He didn't have time to make a video that day. And I like the people that, so, anyway, the other Watchmen people, they were talking about the difference between the last trump and the trumpet, and everything. I was like, I always was interested in wondering what the last trump was. It has nothing to do with Donald Trump. It has to do with, and everything. So, it was very interesting. But, I don't know, because, I feel like that has something to do with Trump, because he wouldn't have been reelected if it wasn't for Trump. And a lot of people believe that the last Trump is Donald Trump's last term as president. The last Trump is Donald Trump's final term as president. Because it's in the Bible, of course, right? But yeah, bro, we gotta be close to something. There was a massive flood that hit Texas that killed a bunch of people. A flood just came through and just washed through Texas. Y'all don't believe we live in the end times. I don't know what to tell you, man. I really don't. So I just, as much as I just want to try to, not talk about this stuff, I feel like I'm being led to do it. I am. And I don't know if it's something I can get away from, really, to tell you the truth. Because, I'm alone a lot, I'm isolated, I don't really have anyone to talk to, and there's a lot of stuff going on in my life, and I'm struggling, dude. Like I said, I believe the devil He is doing a lot to attack me very hard and try to do stuff to tear my life down. He's trying to influence me. He's also trying to cause problems in my life. Turn people against me and do stuff like that. I plan on trying to go get some help, but, I don't know if we're going to be here. I really don't. But, we'll see. There's just a lot of events that are playing out right in front of us, man. Whether you like it or not, and I don't know what to say. Now, there are days I question now, what's going on with me and what's happening, and I would really advise you guys to pray for me because I've been going through a lot of struggles, including falling back into, stuff that I got away from. After 3 years, after I became converted and I accepted Christ and I became born again. I did this back in January, of course, and everything. I accepted God into my life back in January 2025. So I've been saved for, let's say, probably 6 or 7 months. It's hard, though, because with that, you're attacked a lot. The devil does love to attack you. He does. He hates saved, born-again believers. There's just no doubt about that. I did. I turned away from the world and I accepted Christ back in January. And I'd say I've probably been saved for 6 or 7 months, probably now, and everything. But I am beginning to question things that are going on around me because it's getting harder in my life. And I'm wondering if I'm not saved. I'm not actually saved. And I'm being influenced by the devil or something's happening to me. So I probably got to go get some help. I believe some of this stuff is spiritual. I do. Because I've learned a lot about spirituality and things like this. And I learned once you become saved, that immediately is when you learn about spiritual warfare and you learn about a lot of things that go on in your life. That is immediately when you start understanding that you're not in a battle against people. It's against other things of this world. The devil does not like you, so. And he doesn't like you too if you're chosen. God chooses you out of the world. Yeah. Sometimes even your own family will not like you, bro. It's hard, man. It's very hard. I believe it in, let's see, I got saved back in January. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, about 7. I've been saved for 7 months now, 2025. I gave my life to, I don't know if I told you guys the story, but I gave my life to Christ the day that the planes hit. Because I was scared something was coming, so I was seeing stuff that I knew that we didn't have, that I knew that that things were happening, things were coming in the future. Then I saw all these plane crashes back in January, because I believe God was telling me about them, and and everything, and I was like, okay. But when that helicopter and that plane crashed into each other overnight, it scared me to death. And it made me have a major sensation of fear. It did. I had for some reason that just put that literally brought me to fearing God. With that scared me to death. It did, and it worried me that the rapture was coming. And that was going to happen in the future. God was showing me a prelude to what could come in the future. But I believe he was. He was showing me these things happening or leading up to the rapture. And everything, right? And ever since, I've had a theory about the rapture. I have. But, it's I saw the... if people want to know why I have such a thing for the rapture, it's because I saw all these events back in January and stuff when I think it was when Donald Trump got back into office. Okay, and I saw all these events, and I believe God let me see these events. I don't know, compared to some people. I saw planes crashing. I saw the plane crashes, the helicopter and the plane crash into each other. I saw the Philadelphia plane and the Kansas City plane crash during the Super Bowl. I saw the river turn to blood. I saw all these signs. I saw like Mecca in Saudi Arabia filled with locusts and all these things. So like I saw all these signs, and everything that made me believe that what I was being shown was true and that God was revealing these things to me. So he was trying to get me, he was showing me this stuff so I would know about it so I could tell other people. I believe he was like leading me to stuff, and everything. And so all these things I saw literally made me come to God and become saved. Like all these signs literally made me accept Christ into my life, and everything. Because I don't know, something about that struck fear into me, and I'll be honest, I'm still a little afraid on certain days, I still get a little nervous and afraid. If I'm not watching, I won't be prepared. So, and everything. But, yeah. My life changed a lot after 3 years, and then I saw all these things from January to later, I say from January to like maybe March, and everything. I saw all these signs converging, and everything. And then that made me get my hands on these books. That made me get my hands on understanding and reading stuff on spiritual stuff. It made me get my hands on reading the Bible. That's why I know some of the stuff. Like, I know some of the things in the Bible. I can quote it, and everything, right? And stuff, because I read it before these things, I believe, started to happen, and everything, or not, or whatnot. Or I read all these events, like the destruction of Damascus, Jeremiah 49, Ezekiel 38 and 39, and all these. So I started studying all this, and I started studying eschatology in the last days and the end times, like, I think back in March, and everything. And then I started kind of doing a channel on this stuff, I'd say probably about April, and then something happened to my channel, and then I had to start over, and then I made a new channel, and I started making stuff on the rapture, the last days, just stuff in general, Israel and Iran, or the Middle East, stuff like that. I went down this path of, you could say, a spiritual understanding. Could it have been an awakening? Maybe. I don't know. Okay, when it comes to, right, and stuff. I don't know. I question now if that was what I was supposed to do, because now it's made my life a lot harder. But God, I believe, was showing me those things. I believe he was letting me know through discernment. When I got saved, God gave me discernment. And he started showing me things through news, through videos, through events happening with things in the world. He was helping me understand, he was giving me an understanding about what was going on in the Middle East, and everything, right, and stuff. So I'm not saying I'm a prophet or a pastor or, an evangelist. No, I'm a person who I believe God spoke to me, and everything back in, or he showed me these things back in January, and then it brought me to becoming saved. Okay, and everything, right? And he was showing me these things through what I was doing prior to all these events happening in my life that have happened now. I feel like, is what I'm trying to say. And I believe it was true. Now I'm not so sure anymore, but I believe it was true. And I believe he was revealing these things to me. I believe God has showed me a glimpse of the future, possibly, or maybe what could come through these things, these events that have happened. I believe God revealed to me the rapture before the rapture was coming, way back in January. And that's why I have my idea, that's why I have my theories about the fact that the rapture could be this year, and everything. And, all these signs, all these things that I believe are crucial to helping me understand, and everything. And I just had a thing from, a thing to see this stuff, or I had a revelation from God. That's what I believe. It said in the last days, your young men would dream dreams, and your old men would see visions, and I will pour out my flesh on all people, and they shall prophesy. I shall pour out my flesh, and I shall prophesy in the last days. So, I believe I had another encounter with God. I did, I had an encounter with God back 3 years ago. 2 years ago technically, but I guess you could say 3 years ago. I really didn't come to God, like I said. I really didn't ask Him to help me. Well, I want to say I didn't ask Him to pull me out of where I was until maybe probably after my father passed, because I was in a really bad place. But June 6th, okay, and everything, 2 years ago actually, or I guess you could say maybe a year ago, technically, but, and He pulled me out of that, and He helped me deal with that, and everything. And then I had another revelation from God back in January, and it led me to getting saved, and everything, and so I believe I saw these things, I don't know. And then I started watching the Left Behind movies. I started watching Hunger Games. I started watching all these things, that I now believe was important or part of things. And it was revealing things to me. So I started, wanting to understand more about spirituality and things about that, like spirituality, maybe God, or stuff like that in general. I started wanting more and more of the understanding of this stuff, including with the rapture. So I started watching movies and stuff on it to get it, and this was way back in January. I somehow I never watched Left Behind before, but then I never watched Left Behind, but then I got. But then something led me to it. It's I never heard of the Left Behind series before, and I never ever watched it in my life. But then for some reason, I got into the movies, so it's hard to explain. It is, I never got into the movies. And then now, I find myself watching a lot of movies about the rapture and stuff like that. So, I don't know. I don't know if that's what God wanted me, when He wanted me to go down the pathway of doing this, or He wanted me to do CompTIA. I feel like I made a mistake. Maybe I shouldn't have done this. Maybe I should have gone down the other route. Now, I don't know. And now things have gotten harder in my life, but I tell you, man, for some reason my life has become a struggle, and everything's gotten harder for me, and I didn't ask for that, but for some reason things have gotten a lot harder for me. Ever since I had gone down, I think it's because the devil doesn't like me and he's trying to cause problems with my life. But I it's gotten harder. It's become more of a struggle. And I know with that struggle, we're becoming closer to the rapture and we're becoming closer with the rapture and to getting out of here. But yeah, I don't know, man. I know what I saw. I know I saw what I saw. Another thing is too. I believe God showed me something that could. He showed me a warning about things. My mother went to Vegas back in January, February of this year, and for some reason I saw. I just had a thing where I had a thing where when I saw these planes, I had a weird theory about all these plane crashes that something was coming. I mean, luckily nothing happened, but I believe that I was shown. I believe that I was like being revealed about the dangers of these planes and these plane crashes. Not only that, but I believe also I was kind of shown stuff about Real ID and things like that. So I believe that so I believe God gives me insight, and then people look at me like I'm crazy, and everything, but I'm not. I believe so when I became saved, I went down this road of something way different from the world, and I started trying to understand this stuff through reading it and all this stuff by studying all this stuff in March. That was also when I was not going through a great time in my life. My friend Travi had gotten sick and he wasn't doing well, and then he kind of was out of the picture, so I decided to understand, anyway, where all this stuff went. And then I've been making content like this for months now. And I've been led to stuff like the Hunger Games series, Left Behind, the Left Behind books, Revelation Road, which I just got done finishing, which is a great movie series. Revelation Road is a great series if you never watched it. And just an understanding of the end times and the rapture, and everything. And just things like that, man. And not only that, but I've seen stuff like the Third Temple, the Abraham Accords, the 10 Kings, the 7-year covenant, possibly maybe Iran doing something. Just, I believe that all these things, I don't know, it's hard to explain. It really is. And I got something about the 10 Kings last night on the 4th of July. I got an alert from the 10 Kings for 10 Kings video. So, I don't know. I just maybe I was wrong, But yeah, I do believe there are days I have discernment, but that can make people really upset and angry with me doing that. So, it's, I don't know. I know that it had a change in my life because I told you guys, man, I believe I had an encounter with the supernatural realm, with the spirit realm, I believe I had an encounter with the supernatural. by mistake or something happened in my life that caused a problem. People think I'm crazy when I say this, but it really happened. And something happened to me. Whether I got opened up to something or some kind of witchcraft or something. This was before I was saved. I believed in God, but I was not saved. Okay, and everything. And I was just going about living my life however I wanted to live it. And then something happened to me. And then, this put the fear of God in me like nothing I've ever experienced in my life. Okay. So, if you don't believe in let's just say, if you don't believe in any of this stuff and you don't think it's real, until you have an actual encounter with the supernatural realm or the spiritual realm, in a sense, by mistake or something happens to you that you go down, you don't really understand. And something like this will put the fear of God into you, and it did to me. Because this changed my life forever after this happened. It did. It did. I changed a lot after this. I didn't see or do things the same way. Okay, and everything. And it's not just losing my dad. That was a big part of it too. But it's just, I had a weird thing. Like I said, you don't change dramatically unless something big happens in the world. People don't change that much, and everything. So it's like, okay, and everything. So it's like, how to explain it? It's like a spiritual encounter. But not God. Not God. A portal. Or a door. Or something you open yourself up to. Because I've learned about the spiritual. You can't open doors and portals and things from another realm into this world. You can't. Basically in the occult. And everything, right? So, I don't know what it did. Because I didn't ever interact with any of that stuff. And I was not a person to interact with darkness. I stayed away from all that. I was very good about keeping myself away from bad things. For the most part. And everything. I did have a tough time during those 3 years when my dad was sick with ALS. But, I stayed away from a lot of dark things in my life. I didn't drink, I didn't do drugs, I didn't do substances. I was, for the most part, stay away from that stuff. Except for, what I told you guys, which y'all know, and everything, right? And, I don't know, maybe people can, really understand, but, it's like, even when I tell my own family to this day, they're like, you're nuts or you're crazy or you belong in, you need to go to psych, right? You need to go to psych or you need to, get help, and everything. Even when I tell them about that, they're like, that did not happen or that's not possible, and everything. Or, you're just making stuff up. It's a fallacy in your own mind, right? It's a fallacy. What you think is a fallacy. Alright? So, and everything. And I looked up what a fallacy was. I did. And I was like, oh, no, it's not a fallacy. And what am I trying to say? Well, no, most fun. When I told them what happened to me, they're like, it's hard for them to believe. Okay. Well, see, I now know strange things happen to me. I now know and realize now that strange things happen to me around my life that don't happen to anyone else. And so I seem to have things come after me for certain reasons, okay, and everything. And I understand that now. The more and more I've gotten to understand God. So, and everything, right? And I get it. I do. So the whole perspective is, how do I say this? Is demons, the demonic, the devil does not like me. He has not liked me probably since the beginning of my life. I was supposed to. Anyway, that's another story. But a devil did try to kill me a year ago by using something against me. I believe he used my own brother to kill me. He did. He tried to use my own brother to turn him against me to kill me. Beat me to death. Okay, and everything, right? And I don't know. It's because maybe I chose to turn away and follow a different path, and I chose to get away from the stuff I was doing because it wasn't good. The devil wanted to take me out before I could come to God, and everything. He didn't like the fact that I was turning away from him. So, what I mean by supernatural encounter or supernatural realm, what I mean by like a supernatural experience, I guess you could say. Okay. Is, like I said, I never really involved myself with darkness or anything bad. Not even the occult. I don't know. So what ended up happening was I had a real encounter with the spiritual realm or the supernatural. I do believe that to this day. The things that happened to me that put the fear into me and had changed me and it made me be different, I guess you could say, in a sense. Made me really actually come to God, and everything, or put me in a bad situation in my life, put me in a situation in my life where I didn't know what to do. I don't know what happened. It's a little strange to this day, but I know I had a weird encounter. People think it's strange when I tell them I do. So what ended up happening was I used to do a lot of stuff on YouTube, and I used to stream, and I used to make content, and I used to get involved with a lot of people that I didn't know about, I don't think. Some of them might have been involved in witchcraft or evil. They might have had demons, I don't know. I could have brought that into my life. I followed creators that were very toxic and negative. And I had a lot of influence on my life that I think affected me. And everything. And I think I was involved with stuff I didn't know of at the time. Because I wasn't saved. Okay. And everything. And then something happened to me. I would stay up nights. I would stay up every night doing long recording hours, long streaming hours, putting everything I had into my channel because at the time that's all I had in my life. And my friend Trav, that was it. And, and everything. And I would stay up all night streaming and recording to a point that I don't know, whatever I was involved with took an effect over my life because I started having serious health issues. I started having cramping in my wrists. I started having bodily physical problems where I couldn't sleep. I would wake up every night. I couldn't eat. I couldn't drink. I would wake up every night at 3 a.m. Sick to my stomach. I would, constantly I couldn't sleep. And stuff. 3 o'clock. I would have bad dreams. I feel like there was people, I feel like I was having voices in my dreams. There's certain things around me. giving me food or doing things in my dreams. I couldn't get up. I had a lack of energy. I was very lethargic. I had a lot of problems. I had at one point my back hurt and I had back problems, and I never have had back problems in my life. I never have, and everything. I was just very sick around that time. I didn't want to do nothing but not get out of bed. I was just feeling terrible. I was in a bad place. I had no energy. There was a point where I would just stay in bed the whole time. And then my mother started to worry about me, and she was scared about me. She would come in the room, and I told her I didn't want to do anything because I was depressed and going through a lot of stuff. I don't know. I got to a point in my life where it got very, very bad. I was considering suicide. And, I think it was also the time when I lost my friend too, so, and it was very hard for me. I think it was around April of 2023, my birthday, when this happened, and I was in a really bad place, I couldn't walk. I would wake up and I couldn't walk either. I would be in pain, and everything. And I would talk about this stuff and it would be weird, I don't know if I had something in my life or, maybe I had the spirit of infirmity because, it talks about how people had a lot of physical issues when they had something wrong with them or something was going on with them. Talk about a woman had spirit of infirmity for years, and then when she came to God, that, changed. So, I don't know. And then the biggest thing that baffled my mind, and still baffles my mind to this day, and I'm confused about, and I don't know what happened. I would go to sleep at night, or sometimes, I'd say at the time I was really stuck in sin, and I was really, really stuck in a bad place, bondage. I didn't have God. I had God, but I wasn't saved. I didn't really have Christ in my life, and everything. I wasn't filled with the Spirit, and everything. So I was kind of involved in all sorts of different things, and everything. I was stuck in bondage because I didn't know how to deal with my life, I guess you could say, to a degree, right? And so I was doing all sorts of stuff, and then to deal with being able to deal with going through everything I went through, I had to find all sorts of ways to de-stress and relax myself. One of those ways was, just, yeah. So, and I don't know what happened, and everything. Because I was also alone at that time, looking for somebody in my life, looking for a friend, looking for someone to be there for me. Talking to a lot of different people. I fell into, I think at that time I was looking for a relationship or looking to find someone because I felt alone, and everything, through all sorts of different things. And, I even had a Discord where I made a Discord, but I don't use Discord, and everything. But I was like, okay, and everything. And I really didn't know how to deal with my life. I really did, I had become a person. I had become someone I didn't know how to deal with things anymore. And I thought about giving up, and then it got very, very bad because dark demonic influence stuff on my life. Things just started coming around me. I started hearing stuff. I started, hearing noises when I was asleep. The windows would open by themselves, the windows would open by themselves, or I would hear a window open. I felt cold air come in to the room when it was supposed to be warm. I feel like at one time I heard my name called when I was sleeping, and then I would wake up several times in panic, and I had to go see a psychiatrist. I did, and then it got so bad I ended up developing panic attacks, and everything. And then, what am I trying to say? And the icing on the cake is I think demons came into my life. I'm not kidding y'all. I'm not. It's, I know, it's crazy, but I think demons came into my life because I was not in a good place. I went down a bad road, everything. Demons came into my life. Not necessarily like you could say to possess me, but or like to possess, but I think demons came in like spirits, stuff that, or things in my life that came from another place because I was involved in so much stuff. I also really liked watching horror stuff at that time, and I was into the supernatural. I like to watch things on TikTok, years ago, where I like to watch stuff about paranormal and supernatural stuff, ghosts and spirits, things. I was into a lot of horror and really stuff like that. I watched a lot of supernatural stuff because at the time I was going through a weird experience, and then that led me down the road of studying things and really going down this thing of trying to understand what was going on, and that led me to knowing about the occult. But anyway, I never got into this stuff until this happened to me. And so I was trying to understand what was happening. So, what I mean by I believe demons came into my life, alright, and everything, is spirits or things around me. Because I would sleep. I would go to sleep. Man, well, have cats, but this was just not normal at all. This was not normal. And they have claws. They have claws, yes. But this is not normal at all. So, and people find it strange to this day, okay, that I tell them, you believe you encountered the supernatural, you believe you had an encounter with the spiritual realm. Yeah, I do. Okay, and everything. You believe that you had things come into your life that influenced you and caused problems. Yeah, I do. And everything, right? Or did things to you. It's a possibility, yes. Because I had a lot of anger and rage and problems for 3 years. I did. And I had a lot of issues. I was very negative. Very, very upset. Very mad. Would cuss a lot. Would break a lot of things. Would be pissed. Constantly. I didn't like things, okay, and everything. And I still struggle with that, but it's not as bad as it was, and everything. But it was way worse 3 years ago. Well, it came to a point where I would break things too, and get pissed, and the police got called and I had to, and I almost literally went to jail. Anyway, I turned into a person that was not good, and everything. Broke my broke a window. So anyway, what ended up happening was, yeah, I believe I had spirits on my life. Not possession, not full possession, maybe an attachment, or maybe, say, demonic influence on my life. Things that were harassing me and attacking me. Yes. Okay. And why do I say that? Because this doesn't seem like this was a normal thing. Neither does it seem like this was from things outside. Neither does it seem like this was like physical things in the world. This seemed like something else, something different. This didn't seem like a physical person or physical stuff. And I'm single. I don't have anybody in my life. So, I knew that this was like strange. Okay, and everything, right? And stuff. I was like, okay, it makes sense. I'm not going to get into that. But yeah, you know what I mean. But seriously, it's like, okay, and stuff. And so it's like, okay, what's going on with me? Right? What's going on with me? It's like I felt like I had like a spiritual encounter. Yeah. So what I mean is, okay. What I mean is, I had demons come into my life. Okay. I have cats. Okay. I sleep with my cat. My cat comes in to stay with me, or my cat comes in to stay, or he stays in. He comes to be sleep in bed with me, or he stays by my feet, or he stays on the other side of the bed, and everything. And like I said, he's usually not aggressive. It depends, but like I said, it's and stuff. And it happens every now and then that you get scratched. All right. Cat scratches are just normal, or every now and then it happens. Okay? And stuff. But they're not, their claws and their scratch, and those scratches are not like what I had. So, I believe when I started studying supernatural, I was very well under witchcraft or some kind of demonic influence. Yes, I was. And why do I think I do? Well, I think I believe it because these weren't your typical average scratches. They were not. These were spiritual. They were, okay, and everything. Okay, so, and people said they had this problem too. They've had this problem too in their life. I wasn't the only one. So, I don't know, I would go to sleep, and I'd be sleeping, and there were times when I felt something touching me, or something happening to me, and everything, right? I could feel something, I could feel my body, I could feel something touching my body, or I could feel burning or something on my body, those sensations. A lot of people say, like, when that happens to you, you're marked by the devil because you don't have Christ. Okay, and everything, or you don't have God. You're not saved. And that can open you up to things coming after you. And the devil has you marked because you've either entered into something that you agreed to, or, you have gotten involved in something that wasn't good. Or, one, you somehow have opened yourself up to something demonic, or something bad. And it says that the devil demons put marks on you. Alright, so how do I explain this? People are gonna be like, okay, so, and okay, so Yeah, and I'd go to sleep and I would feel things touching me. I would feel scratches. I would feel burning on my body. I would feel pain. Sometimes when I was recording too, I would feel scratches. Or I would feel things scratching me. Or doing stuff to my body. I'd feel cramping in my wrist. I'd feel pain in my back. I would feel physically exhausted and tired. I would be hurting. And everything, right? I would feel a burning sensation when I would record. And then I would get up and it would hurt so bad I couldn't stop recording. I couldn't stop streaming or recording. That I couldn't do it. I couldn't, I couldn't, focus because it hurt so much, and everything. I had to go and I had to put something on these scratches or I had to get rid of them. Bro, it got worse. It got worse. Oh, it got worse those next months. For 2 years, it got worse and worse and worse. It did. So, what ended up happening was, and I don't know what it was, because I believe it was spiritual to this day, yes. And people aren't going to convince me that what I dealt with and encountered was not real. Okay? And stuff. They look at me like I'm crazy. And I would go to sleep and I would feel things touching me, and then, bro, I would wake up with scratches on my arms, scratches on my legs, scratches on my neck, chest, back, scratches everywhere, practically. Sometimes I would have it on my wrist or my hand. Sometimes when I'd be recording or streaming at night, or sometimes I'd be streaming or recording during certain times or at night, I feel scratches on my body. I would. Scratches all over. I would feel scratches, or I would feel things doing stuff to me, and everything, right? And it got so bad that I was in a lot of pain, and everything. And I was recording and doing content and stuff like this for a long time. I guess God really put me through a experience where at that time in my life I lost everything, including my father, and maybe I wasn't going down the right path. Something had happened to me. I had opened myself up to some stuff, and everything, or maybe the devil had me fall into a trap and I got involved in something I wasn't supposed to, or something with some bad people, or I was not in a good place. And demons feed off of that. They took advantage of it. They knew I was vulnerable. They knew I really didn't know God, okay, like I do now. But, it's interesting, because, and they decided to come after me. And the devil knew I was vulnerable and made, and he could mark me because of maybe going down the path I was going down. Because at the time I was following the world and everything in the world to gain the wealth, the fame, the fortune, and all the perks of being a YouTuber and a content creator. I was following all the other creators to do what they did, and everything, right? Or I wanted to be like them. I was following them, and they were influencing me in a sense to do what they did. And with that, you kind of are, with doing that, you're kind of agreeing to follow the devil. You're agreeing to follow Satan. With that, you're kind of agreeing to follow the ways of the devil in the world. That Satan already has control of you. He already has you. Or you could say that Satan already has, you've already decided to side with him, or you decided to join him. In other words, you decided to pledge your allegiance to Satan, in a sense, right? Or you decided to join the world. Now, I'm not a Satanist. I'm not in the occult. I don't do demonic things. But you decided to side with the world and to do what they did. Basically, you're following Satan. You're following the devil. You're deciding to follow the ways of the world so you can gain the stuff of this place. In other words, you're choosing to follow the evil, wicked ways of this world, and it ain't good. And everything. So you've given yourself sort of in a way to Satan. You can't really sell your soul, but you've given yourself in a sort of way to Satan to get the stuff you did, And so he probably knew he could take advantage of you and bring things into your life to cause problems, and could very well could possess you, right? Because you've agreed to, in a sense, follow the devil or follow the ways of the world or do something he wants you to do. In other words, to a sense, you're following Satan and Satan's people, and the people that he made you fall into, right? In a sense, you're following demons. You're following doctrines of demons, and it said this would happen in the last days. People will turn away and follow doctrines of demons. They'll follow demons and people, and everything. And maybe that could have been the case for me. I could have been following demons, and everything, and that could have really been bad for me. These people could have been these people could have been literal demons, and everything. They came into my life. I wouldn't be surprised. I lacked the discernment to know at the time, but these people could have been literal demons in disguise. They could have, And I was following demons, and with that, Satan or the devil or whatever it was knew he could take advantage of me and do whatever he wanted because I didn't have Christ. I didn't. I've always believed in God, but I wasn't saved. I didn't have the Spirit of God in me. I didn't. And everything, right? So, he decided to send forces into my life to come after me. And because, he knew at the time that's what I wanted. He knew at the time that's what I wanted in my life, and so he agreed to, with that, agreeing to that, he sent a lot of things into my life that made it worse. Yeah, it was nice. I mean, yeah, you got a lot of benefits from it, but it caused a lot of problems and struggles and a lot of issues to your life. In a sense, he could have killed me. He could have killed me, but through all that, there's a reason for everything, man. I wouldn't be here to this day if it wasn't for. I wouldn't be here to this day if it wasn't for God. I went down. I went through a major struggle. I went down a really bad road. Or I went down a bad path. I went through a really hard time. And I ended up stuck in following stuff, and everything. And I ended up following people that I thought were good but weren't good. Could have been following demons. Kind of like Anakin Skywalker, where he gets tricked into thinking he's doing what's good, but he gets manipulated by Palpatine and used. And that's kind of how I believe it happened to me. I feel like Anakin, with what I went through, and everything, where it's like, he, all he wanted to do was, you know, save Padme. And so he decided to he decided to go with those people because he thought that was good, or he thought that maybe what he was doing was like, maybe, he felt like, I don't know, those individuals, like, he could relate or something, or Anakin felt like maybe if he went with this person, things would be better in his life. So, I don't know, but, it's like he gets so desperate that he basically chooses to follow Palpatine, and be his apprentice. And Anakin gets manipulated and used and controlled. And it ends up getting him killed, having his arms and legs sliced off, and then he becomes Vader, and everything. He becomes a former shell of himself. He loses who he is, right? And then everything, everything bad happens to him in his life. And he got, and his life is nothing but a struggle. But then he ends up coming back to, in the movie. So, and everything. So, it's just, I don't know. I feel like it's really interesting, but yeah. And I went down that dark path for 3 years, trying to find stuff again. So I decided to follow people and things that I think would help my life, to follow people and things that I thought I found similarities with and liked because they were like me. It did bad things to me in my life. It did. It opened me up to demonic stuff, witchcraft, a lot of other worse things, terrible, awful things, oppression, harassment, everything you can think of, demonic doors, things that I can't explain, and everything. That it's just too awful to talk about, really, just the worst things you can imagine. I went through for 3 years. I did, and everything. Had to go see a psychiatrist. Couldn't sleep. Would wake up with nightmares. Had oppression and harassment. Heard noises. Heard my name called. Had things open up by themselves. Had heard things turn on and off without doing stuff. Heard, witnessed a lot of strange things, scratches, physical elements to my body that was not normal. Depression, anxiety, stuck in things, feeling hopeless. Demons probably influencing me and haunting me, around me. Because that was when I was like in the worst. That was when I was like in a really bad time in my life, and I was alone, isolated, causing me to get more and more angrier, rageful, hateful, violent, mad, break things, kind of became a person who only cared about himself, and everything. Um, it was the worst time of my life. It was the worst time I can imagine. And then I feared, and then nothing put the fear of knowing that that this stuff was real into me, like knowing I could be killed, something could possess me, or demons were after me, because I seriously felt they were. They were after me. They were after my soul, bro. They were after me as a person. They were after my life because of what I had gotten myself into. The devil, I had opened up things to the devil coming to be able to physically attack me. Yes, physically. With other things like spirits and demons. It's the worst thing you can imagine. It is, I'm never going back to that again. I don't know what it did, but it really did a lot on my life. And by the time it got so bad, it was just crazy. I don't know what happened. And I became like Anakin, where I was like, what have I done? Like, what have I done, bro? I don't know what's going on with. It's like I don't know what happened to me. It's like, God, I don't know what. I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm desperate. I need you. I don't know how to deal with this. Everything. And it's just like, I realized I realized I had not become, I had changed a lot. Riding high, riding high, achieving all that stuff in my life at a young age, and then having the success or the stuff of being a YouTuber for 3 years. Having all that stuff in my life and then going through what I went through really humbled me, or it brought me back to reality about what happened with stuff. But I guess you could say, and it really made me understand. I don't know. It's just, it's just hard to explain. I just, I don't know. Something changed me that day. Because I got involved in a lot of bad stuff. I was really scared all these scratches and all this stuff was going to kill me. I really was. I came to God and I told Him to pull me out of that, and then, and stuff. So, you know. It was interesting experience. If you give demons an opening, you're not saved or you don't have Christ, they will come in. And they will torment you. They will harass you. They will physically attack you. And then if they can't, and then if you're not, don't know what's going on, they will possess you. Knowing everything. I don't know, maybe it was a warning from God or something. Trying to alert me to what's going on. Trying to tell me. Maybe it was God put me through what I went through. I don't know how I got all this stuff in my life. I think these people were demons and involved with witchcraft or dark stuff that came into my life. I don't know. At first I looked at them as just regular creators, but then all this stuff started happening to me. Then I'm like, nah, they're much darker than that. They're involved with something. The devil does love to use people to influence people. He does. Even creators. You'd be surprised there's some dark spirits in people that can do stuff to you, to come into your life. Don't follow demons, man. That's really hard to say, but yeah. I was misled then because I didn't have God. Now it's not as much as now I don't deal with that as much anymore, but witchcraft, demonic spirits, influence, you name it. I had all that in my life. I had all that in my life, dude. Scratches. I went through it. I had all that. Demonic influence, demons, whatever. Spiritual attacks. Whew. It's so hard to explain, man. I wouldn't have been able to get out of it if it wasn't for God. But I tell you, man, I'm tired of this world, man. I don't want to be here anymore. I just don't. We got to be close to something happening very soon. We do. I just don't see how we're not. And that Gaza ceasefire, and I have a feeling that this whole meeting between Trump and Bibi is going to be huge. I don't know. But yeah. I believe God led me to the things I did. Right after I became saved, to be exact. From March all the way to April. Then May, then June. Now. But my life is tough, man. And it's hard. Especially now, because I've been going through a lot of attacks and struggles. And we're going through a lot of that in these last and final days. We are. Or these days we're living in now. Like this year. We're going through a lot of that. And it's ramping up and it's getting hard. You're going through a lot of that. But all you gotta do is just keep going. Relying on God, and hopefully we'll get out of this soon. Hopefully we'll get out of here soon. But yeah, the attacks and the difficulties and struggles, they're happening a lot. The devil's doing a really good job walking around, seeing who he can devour, and he's doing a really good job of causing a rift and division and problems, including in the world and with certain people. I know it's happening in my family. And I don't mean to do it. I mean, I don't mean to have it happen, but seriously, it's just I can't seem to get stuff right anymore. I'm blamed for everything. So, everything's always my fault. I don't know. He's doing a good job of sowing division, that's for sure. But it happens, man. You just gotta continue to fight on. Keep doing what we're doing while we're here. We gotta be close though. We do. Gotta be close to something. I just don't see how we're not. I just don't see how we're not. I don't. Uh. Yeah. Also, guys, please pray for my best friend. He told me today when I texted him to play. He's going through bad stuff. He told me he has a hightail hernia and he's having groin problems. And apparently he says he had to go to the ER today for emergency surgery. So he's not in good condition. He's not doing well at all. So please pray for my friend. He's going through it. Yeah, he said he has to have some serious surgery. He's having some major problems, man. I don't know. Stuff is hard, man. I'm ready to get out of here. I am. Anyway, I don't know. Oh boy. Alright. I'm tired of going through this stuff, man. I just want to get out of here soon. I hope. Get out of here soon. Alright, so Bubba News has got some stuff here to talk about. I guess we might be here till September because it's looking like this is really interesting. But a lot of stuff is unfolding right now. This was yesterday on July 4th. It says decisions about who is surveyed, detained, or denied entry are increasingly being made with the aid of private sector AI algorithms often deployed without rigorous testing or even ethical review. CBP's biometric tracking regulation is a keystone in a much larger architecture that fuses immigration, enforcement, mass surveillance, and corporate profit. It grants DHS and its contractors unprecedented reach into the daily lives of millions, creating a data-fueled feedback loop that makes it easier to monitor, police, and control. Everything is being set up for the coming global beast system. Bubba says it's time for two-state solution talks to resume. When they say peace and safety, sudden destruction. Emmanuel Macron is pressuring Keir Starmer to recognize Palestine as a state. The French president will be in the UK for a 3-day state visit next week. That will include an address to both houses of parliament and a summit with Keir Starmer. Macron has been leading the charge for making the announcement soon. He'll be organizing a UN conference to discuss that matter last month hosted with Saudi Arabia. The meeting in New York was cancelled when Israel launched airstrikes on Iran. The UK is still formulating its position on the issue. Macron wants to recognize the conference for September when all global leaders will gather in New York for the UN's annual General Assembly. That's the 10 Kings, bro. That is the 10 Kings. The global leaders. The 10 nations that will give their power to the Antichrist. I guarantee you 100%. That's the 10 Kings. The 80th session of the UN General Assembly is scheduled to begin on September 9th, 2025, with the general debate starting on September 23rd, 2025. This session will address various global issues including international peace and security. So we're going to find out something about September then. So people might be right. The rapture might be on Feast of Trumpets. Because I've been hearing something about that. September 23 through 26, 2025. It's the 2025 treaty event at the UN headquarters. Yeah, we very well could have a September 21st rapture with the way things are going. I don't know if we're going to be here prior to September. Okay, well, alright. I got to stop saying we're not going to be here because everyone hates me every time I do it. Dude, I can't win no matter what I do. Everyone hates me no matter what I do. Just, I don't know. Bubba says this. He says Hamas changes to hostage deal proposed conclude demand for 7-year ceasefire. Israeli official says. Combine this with the recent Hamas suggestion for a 7-year ceasefire and current peace discussions. And you have a strong possibility of a 7-year peace plan with the many on Rosh Hashanah. Something to keep an eye on, IMHO. This is getting more wild by the day now. It says IDF is preparing to launch raids into remaining Hamas hubs, Gaza City, and the central Gaza camps. Israeli hostages are believed to be held in these areas. Hamas has provided a fundamentally positive response to the hostage release framework, but demands these amendments. Full IDF withdrawal, or 1, full IDF withdrawal, 2, cessation of aid distribution by the American Fund, GHF, and 3, a commitment to a permanent ceasefire with Hamas. The Israeli secret cabinet will convene tonight to discuss negotiations regarding Gaza. Sources familiar with the matter, the amendments proposed in Hamas's response will challenge Israel's decision makers. An Israeli delegation is expected to travel to Qatar soon to continue these talks. Israel is prepared to send a negotiating delegation to Qatar within the next day after Hamas sent a positive response to the proposal presented by the U.S. and Qatar, which Israel agreed to. So the 7th, maybe. That might be what the 7th is. Israel sending a negotiating delegation to Qatar. It's important to note that Hamas included some reservations with certain issues, such as how many terrorists will be released in return for hostages, the exact wording concerning what will happen over 60 days, how aid will be distributed, and other issues. But in Israel, it's estimated that these are gaps that can be bridged at this point. I think it can be bridged. But yeah, even though these are the same exact issues that have prevented a deal up until now, the two sides will likely work to finalize the deal in the next 2 days to concede with Netanyahu's trip to Washington. Trump and Netanyahu both desperately want the announcement to happen during the visit. Of course, there is a possibility Hamas will try to drag it out a bit to rob them of that photo shoot, but that scenario doesn't seem to be where things are headed, at least at the moment. It says there of course also remains the major issue that Hamas is unwilling to disarm and insist on maintaining control of Gaza. Israel sees this as a non-starter, but also refuses to consider any alternative in any serious manner. Even with guarantees for Israel's security presented repeatedly over the past year by the Gulf states, who we were told when the Abraham Accords were signed were supposed to be reliable security partners. So it seems to be a really bad sign that we don't seem to trust them at all in any shape, way, or form. Not exactly the basis for a strong alliance. True. Regardless, this temporary ceasefire, at least at the moment, has no clear path to lead to the release of all the remaining hostages, even though purportedly it meant to end the war completely in any case, which makes it ridiculous on all fronts to push off the release of hostages to drag things out for a few more weeks, which could mean the difference between life and death for the hostages being left behind. The release of any further hostages will require a separate deal after this, which will also require likely the release of more terrorists than any
than a comprehensive deal would require. As far as it seems, a comprehensive agreement is not even a possibility being considered, even though it would be much more hard to negotiate from a position of power after Hamas has had a 60-day break than it would be to negotiate from such a position now. Also, in general, the longer you wait with things in the Middle East, the more room you leave for things to blow up in your face. And yeah. So. You know and everything, right? You know, stuff. So I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, when you get born again, you see things different.
I feel like what I'm doing is meaningful for people and it's helping them. I feel like telling people about the rapture and what's coming to the Lord. See the world, and I'm asking much longer where it's going. So it doesn't mean much to me. I mean, they're supposed to be meeting. I mean, if we're still here past September, if we're still here in the next 2 months, they're supposed to be having a big. They're supposed to be having a big meeting in the United Nations in September. But how does that do it for me? What do you mean by that? have any reason to care about gaming or sports or nothing of this sort. All I want to do is just watch the rapture. I mean, I'm talking to you talk to that guy, but that's not till the night. We're still here. But the way things are going right now, I don't see us all getting into a plane and going to Vegas together. Yeah, but I think we're going to kill each other if we end up getting, you know what I'm saying, Vegas together. I'm bringing my stuff with me, like I did when we came to Orange Beach. I'm bringing my Steam Deck and all my stuff together with me. We're golfing over there. I don't want to get on a plane because I'm scared about this. I still don't think it's a plane crash. Wait, what if we get to live out left unanswered? And then future. No, I mean like, what if we get raptured? What if we end up getting raptured off the plane? That'd be fun. So bad for Josh. I think you will we need to go. Don't believe in any of this. He's not the one panic much, but he probably will panic when we're gone. That's what's happening. If we disappear off the plane, you'd be like, he'll wonder what happened. It's gonna happen, Mom. good job telling. They do a good job, like helping people understand what's going on with stuff. You know, and everything. Including, I was watching like what difference, like, what the difference between the last Trump and the Trump is last night. It was quite interesting video to watch. No, it's his people. Well, he has other people that he has that talk about stuff. He's not around. Because he's a big guy. He's going around doing stuff. So I don't know. I think there's a possibility day by day from everything. I just know. I just know it's not much time left. I just know there's just not much left in this world that I care, want to be involved with. Hey, I'm kind of hungry. Can you make